arrived at the time where the candidates can ask questions of themselves. We'll limit the question till about 1 minute, and we'll give everyone 30 seconds to reply, and we'll roll down the table. We'll start with Mr. Wallen. A question for the candidates, and we'll let everyone chime in.
This question is for Representative Kim Martin. How can you claim to not be in the pocket of special interests when you've accepted over $125,000 in donations, comprised of over $10,000 from industries that the AG's office will regulate since becoming a candidate, over $32,000 from the orthopedic industry and a sweetheart deal for them, and over $81,000 from anonymous donors, not to mention the $4,000 in the last 2 months from lobbyists?
Thank you, Mr. Wallen. I appreciate that. You've tried to level this before, and once again, you're not bringing out all the evidence. The fact is, I have been in the office for 20 years, and I have a lot of donations, but I'm a leader on health care. The bill you're referring to, that would help lower health care costs. So I don't make any apologies for that. That bill provided patient health care in the offices. That's a good thing. I also took on insurance companies. I'm the one who got them to cover breast cancer reconstruction after mastectomies. They didn't want to do it. They thought it was cosmetic surgery. I had the backbone to take them on. Campaign contributions don't mean anything to me. What it means to me is I do honorable service and I do what's right. And I have the record of having done that, and unfortunately, you withhold evidence from the voters on my record.
Mr. Rainville.
Well, unfortunately, perception is reality in many instances. I've been told that before, and we need to have the perception that the Attorney General is above any type of situations where they can be bought and donations coming in. It's very clear. Many times I'm sitting in between Representative Kilmartin and Mr. Wallen, and it's quite shocking. You see the political back and forth, Democrats against Republicans, Republicans against Democrats. It just shows everyone, so much so, it's so clear how the Office of Attorney General needs to be independent, where people will look at that and say, Mr. Rainville is going to do the right thing no matter what.
Mr. Little.
You've got to be kidding. You get thousands of dollars from lobbyists. Lobbyists give you money for a reason. They don't give it to you because you're a nice guy, although they may like you. They give it to you because you're going to do something for them. That's what we have as a record. And that's what we have as a record from somebody who's saying, trust me, I'll still be your advocate against Blue Cross, United, and Tufts. I'll still be your advocate against Verizon. I'll still be your advocate against National Grid. It doesn't pass the smell test.
Mr. McKenna.
The issue is not special interest contributions. It's knowledge of the systems of health care, knowledge of the systems of workers' comp, knowledge of the systems of government. I say a well-informed Attorney General who pays attention to the evidence, to the facts, and how the system works will make important changes. I wrote the first National Health Insurance Bill. I was the chairman of the Catastrophic Health Insurance Commission. We had an effective program in Rhode Island. I have a plan to save medical insurance increases, and that'll make a difference.
Thank you. Representative Kilmartin, a question for any one of your colleagues.
I have a question for Mr. Wallen. You're running on a platform of cracking down on public corruption. However, as a junior prosecutor, you tried 2 corruption cases. One was the Boyer case, in which a corrupt public official in West Warwick was charged with 8 counts, 5 felony bribery, all punishable by jail time, 3 misdemeanor ethics complaints. You pled out all 5 felony charges, let him off the hook with no jail time, yet you sit here and be disingenuous with the voters, acting as though as you're tough on corruption, when your record proves otherwise.
The case that you're referring to is the Boyer case. Mr. Boyer was not the target of the investigation. In fact, the state police I was assigned to be the advisor to the state police during that investigation. They were targeting a much bigger corrupt enterprise that they had hoped to get to. Mr. Boyer, in fact, was someone who they were not able to get beyond. And in fact, ultimately what came of that was there was no evidence of quid pro quo, which is a real hole in Rhode Island's corruption laws. And he did in fact serve prison time because he was sentenced to a year in home confinement, which is considered prison time, as well as 2 years consecutive years of suspended jail time. So ultimately he served 3 years with 1 year to serve.
Mr. Rainville.
Again, this is excuses beyond excuses. Mr. Wallen obviously was not tough on crime when he was in the Attorney General's office. He can say, give us all reasons why. But the general public needs to know, when you are the Attorney General, you will be very, very tough on public corruption. When I'm the Attorney General, there will be no one that will be out of the way if they are corrupt in a public capacity, a public official. I will go after Democrats, Republicans, moderates, no matter what it is, independents. If you're in a public capacity and I'm the Attorney General, they will be prosecuted.
Mr. Little.
I think in fairness to Eric, we have to remember that he is a line prosecutor reporting to higher-ups. And so the direction and where he would be going on this case most likely came, or at least the authorization from somebody superior to him. And that gets to the point of going back to where we are in the beginning. Are we going to have higher-ups that are serious against fighting corruption, or are we going to have higher-ups who are going to say, give somebody a slap on the wrist?
Kevin McKenna.
I don't think anybody knows what they're talking about in this debate. The corruption, corruption doesn't occur by the number of prosecutors you have. It occurs by people in the executive branch and the municipal government reporting things that are crimes. If you don't get the report, you have nothing to prosecute. I've had 62 cases at the Rhode Island Supreme Court. I have 7 cases up at the First Circuit.
I'm going to stop you. Thank you,
and
Mr.
I've
McKenna.
done civil cases.
Thanks, Ms. McKenna. Rob Rainville. Question from one of your colleagues.
Sure. The Attorney General's office, as I've said from day one, needs to be independent, needs to be looked at in the public's eyes as an office that is outside of the political realm. That's my message. That's what I'm going to do as Attorney General. My question to everyone is, do you believe that the Office of Attorney General has nothing to do with politics when you're prosecuting crimes and protecting consumers? And if the answer is yes, will you vow to make the office nonpartisan in the future, as I vowed to do that?
Who you ask somebody? Ask somebody.
Mr. Kilmartin.
Sure, why not? Representative Kilmartin.
Well, I think I've already addressed this. As I said, as a police officer, I took a sworn duty, uphold the law without fear or favor. We're in a political season right now, but come January, when I get sworn as an Attorney General, it's the same thing. I swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of Rhode Island. That's my oath of allegiance. That's the oath I've taken on many different occasions, on many different levels. It's an oath I take seriously, and I can look myself in the eye and know that I've done that, and I will do it, and there will be no political influence.
Mr. Little.
Trust me, that's what the answer is in light of the record. I think the record is something that leads, at the very least, a question in everybody's eyes as to whether they can.
Kevin McKenna.
I'm the only one that's ever been elected as a nonpartisan. I got elected president of the 1986 Constitutional Convention. It was a nonpartisan convention. We got 18 important changes in the Constitution, including due process, equal protection, campaign financing. That shows you how a nonpartisan administration of justice can make a difference.
Eric Wallem.
The Office of Attorney General is a special one. It has the power to bring charges against people or not bring charges. It has the power to stand up for individuals' rights or not stand up for them. As Attorney General and someone who has actually worked in the office, I can tell you that the morale is poor at the Attorney General's office because of the political nature of what it's become, of the things that it hasn't done. Like, for example, go after the prosecutions at the landfill, where $75 million lost to fraud, waste, and corruption, or for the Attorney General to recognize his conflict in Central Falls. I'll make that a nonpartisan office.
Thank you, Mr. Wallem. Mr. Little, question for your colleagues.
Mr. Kilmartin, looking at your record, you were a police officer for 24 years, and as I understand it, you retired at the end of July 2007. And I understand you were a good police officer. And you were a legislator for 20 years during this time also. And I also have every confidence that while you were serving the people of Pawtucket, that you were working as a police officer and you didn't have an independent law practice. So you started out practicing law with the Horan Law Offices in around August 2007, and you now have 3 years of experience. Why is it, what have you done in these 3 years of experience as a private lawyer that relates directly to managing this office and to fulfilling the duties of health care, utility regulation, and the other many advocacy positions that you have to undertake if you're going to serve the people of Rhode Island?
I'm so happy you asked that question. Let me show you something, Mr. Little. It's from 1999. It's when I opened my law office account. Here's the latest statement. Same number. So don't lie to the general public and say I've only been an attorney for 3 years. Here's the proof. Call the Rhode Island Bar. You want to be Attorney General, Mr. Little? You better learn how to investigate facts, number one. I'm not out schlepping for corporate clients like you. I'm defending the little people in my neighborhood. That's what I did as a private attorney.
While you were on the payroll of the police department,
Act-
you were doing a separate job. You did not retire from the police department until July 28th, 2007, correct? That's when you got your service pension.
Mr. Little, I was never a 9-to-5 attorney. You know what I was? I was the kid who worked third shift, who was in the legislature, and went to law school at the same time. I won't be a 9-to-5 attorney general. I know hard work ethic. I've been working since I was 13 years old. Just because I held down 2 jobs doesn't make me a bad person.
I appreciate that.
I'm gonna step in. Rob Rainville.
Sure. I just think that this clearly brings out the point that, as I said before, Mr. Camartin's running for the wrong office. I have nothing bad to say about his years as a police officer or as a legislator, but it's clear that we're running for Attorney General, people of Rhode Island. This is a very serious office. You need to have someone who is an attorney, who's been practicing as an attorney. I was a judge for 8 years. I've made decisions on the other side of the bench that no one here can say they have done. Very serious decisions affecting families' lives. I've been the attorney. I have the experience. Mr. Camartin clearly does not have any experience in that area.
Mr. McKenna.
I've been practicing law 37 years. I've been before juries, and the judge would always tell me what the question was and what the answer was. What's the question?
Weigh in on the. Well, we move on to Mr. Wallen.
Very simply, again, I am the only candidate for Attorney General who has prosecuted felony criminal cases. I did so as a captain and as a JAG officer in the United States Air Force. I supervised and trained over 45 officers and enlisted personnel. And I came back to Rhode Island to serve as a prosecutor to ensure that victims had their day in court, that victims had closure, and that criminals were put behind bars. That's what I'll do as Attorney General. Serve the people of the state of Rhode Island and make sure that our communities are safe.
Thank you. Final question is going to go to Mr. McKenna.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, sir.
All right. The Constitution trumps statute. We have a separation of powers amendment that passed in 2004 that says specifically the legislature will only legislate. They won't pass legislative grants and administer them. It says that the judges will only adjudicate. They won't appoint people to the traffic tribunal and have their own budget, have their own showers and their own ovens, little cooks things in the office. So, as Attorney General, will you bring a lawsuit to declare unconstitutional the 4 laws that are presently unconstitutional, in conflict with the separation of powers?
Who are you asking specifically?
All
Mr.
4.
McKenna? All 4. I will start with you, Mr. Rainville. We'll go right on down.
I believe that the charge of the Attorney General is much more pressing than, I'm not sure the exact questions you were asking there, Kevin, but it seems to be a little distracting sometimes when you're asking those questions. But the Office of Attorney General is clearly to protect all of Rhode Islanders. The Office of Attorney General is to make sure that people trust them to do the right thing. I will do that clearly. I'm not there to bring suit against some of the issues that you just spoke about, Kevin, but again, it's not a personal vendetta. This is about protecting Rhode Islanders.
Representative Camart.
Actually, I'm proud of the fact that Common Cause cited me as one of the people who helped put that separation of powers amendment together. And I will say this, I don't really care from a constitutional perspective if they put a kitchen in office. As a taxpayer and a legislator, and that being a waste of taxpayer dollars, that I care about, but that doesn't make it unconstitutional. To me, it makes it a little bit unethical.
Mr. Little.
Your rating from Common Cause was low, Peter. Now, dealing with the question that Kevin asked,
was the
the role of the Attorney General is to defend the laws of the state. If the General Assembly has passed a law and the governor signed the law, I think the Attorney General job is to follow that law. And so I don't think we have the discretion to pick and choose which laws we're going to challenge or not challenge.
Mr. Wallen.
Separation of powers is something that's critically important. Obviously, as Attorney General, I'll work to make sure that the state complies with separation of powers issues. One example is that the legislature excluded CRMC, which is Coastal Resource Management, from the operation of separation of powers, which it should be under, clearly, and be following. But, you know, the issues that are pressing are that we go after the corruption and root it out, both at the state level as well as at the municipal level. And that's the job of the Attorney General.